Alright, so the S10 build blocks at the machine shop. I'm going to go over the plans for it, show you guys what I'm trying to do with it. Alright. So the original plan for this motor was obviously do a V8 swap. The reason I wanted to do a V8 swap is I wanted to run 180-degree headers, so that's going to really change the sound of the engine. I've seen a lot of them online, and it's something I've always wanted to do, and I just needed something with more room underneath where I could run the two pipes. You basically cross over two pipes from the left bank to the right bank, and you basically, every cylinder that's firing through that collector is on a 180-degree firing signal from each other. So it kind of mellows out the idle. It doesn't sound like a V8 at that point. It sounds like basically an inline 8 or 2 4-cylinders. That's the next thing, 180 headers. They're going to have to be custom. Custom mufflers as well. Now for the mufflers, I want to use, I've heard another guy who made his own 180 headers, and he designed a large chamber muffler. It's basically a through perforated pipe. He's got stainless mesh. And muffler packing. And that goes around the stainless mesh. They were just straight through circular style mufflers, maybe 14 inches or so. Now the other thing, the block is at the machine shop right now. I've got some old 408 pistons and rods that I used in my previous engine from a long time ago. The one that actually broke a rod from a hydrolock situation on startup. So this is the damaged piston. You know, it's got some scoring from where the valve hit it. The piston pin's a little tight, so I had to go with get a new piston as well. Now, so these are the rods I'm going to use. I still need to get a set of rod bolts because I ended up using those in the 427 build. But basically they're H-beam rods from Compstar. Talked with these guys, they're great people. I needed one rod obviously because I broke it, so measured it out, the big end and the heavy end, and we were able to come up with an identification for the rod that I bought, you know, about 10 years ago. And this is the new rod they sent me. Obviously it came with hardware in it, so I'm gonna have to get a whole nother set to match up with the others. But it's, as you can see, it's identical. The logo's exactly the same. The font on the bottom is a little thinner, but obviously, you know, all the casting marks on it, or the forging marks, they're exactly the same. Same exact weight. I weighed it when I got it in, and then on my scale, they're identical. So they will be able to be matched up. You know, I've got a whole box of pistons, so that's what I'm going to use. Now, for that piston that was gouged up right here, I called up the folks over at Diamond, where I got the pistons originally made, and they were kind enough to send me out one piston. So it's not really a common thing that aftermarket companies would do this, so I'm really grateful that they did. You know, they gave me a sticker for one piston. It should be Diamond piston because I only got one. But the new piston is right here. So for just a few $100, you know, I got a full fully 100% ready, rotating assembly to go back together. I also ordered a whole new set of rings for all 8 pistons so I can gap them where I want them. Now, I'm not exactly sure where I want to go with the build. You know, maybe if I can get an LSA blower, you know, it'd be a good idea. If that's the case, you know, I want to gap the rings accordingly. I think, you know, at minimum I can gap them pretty big and still run a lot of nitrous, but I want this build to be tamed. So that's part of the goal as well. Tame build, forged pistons and rods. Internally balanced. So I don't want to balance it to the flywheel, or, you know, we've been down that road in the past. You know, if you crack a flywheel or destroy it, you know, basically your internal balance is going to be upset by that. So I'm going to get a zero balance flywheel as well as zero balance harmonic dampener. That way everything on the balance side is internally to the engine. It costs a little bit, but it's worth it. So going to be a tame build. Now, I'm not sure what I want to do with the cam. I definitely want to keep the VVTI. So that's basically variable valve timing. You know, it can advance and retard the cam. From the factory, it does it up to like 50 degrees. Now, with the aftermarket cams, Texas Speed has a nice set of VVTI cams that are producing tons of power. I don't want to go too radical on the idle. I want that idle to not be completely choppy because I want to have that nice sound. Another thing, I want to use this truck for daily use if I need to. I want it to get decent fuel mileage. It doesn't have to be the best, but I want it just to have that nice sound to it. So I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this factory VVTI cam or if I'm going to go with an upgraded cam. So stock or TSB. So one of the things I need to do, I need to get a set of head gaskets. I already have some ARP studs left over from my LQ4. Oh, this block right here is a LY6. So this normally had LS3 style heads. So in order to make that work, I'm going to need, you know, basically everything: valve train, push rods, you know, obviously, you know, gaskets. We'll go with the LS9 gasket because they're cheap and they're pretty nice. Go with a high volume pump, and let me see if I can think of anything else. You know, obviously, you know, we're going to need a swap harness or stock. I need a ECU. So I'm going to go junkyard hunting, see what I can find. Unfortunately, the VVTI only runs on, so I got to find basically an LY6 factory computer that I could reprogram for my purposes. Now, one of the downsides to it is apparently I can only run the transmissions that those things were programmed with for a manual transmission, if that's the case. Now, another thing I can do is I can run an old school transmission, either like a turbo 400 or 350 or maybe a 700 R4, and that would allow me to run it as a manual mode as far as the computer's concerned, and you know, I'll be able to do that. If not, I'm going to have to get a 4L80 and go that route. They're pretty strong. I can build those up. Even the 4L60s, you know, I can build those up. I used to build those, you know, at ATI. I used to build those at the dealer. So, you know, we can stick some extra clutches in there, make that third, fourth gear clutch pack stronger, because that's tends to be the weak point in that. If I end up going with a turbo 400, I think I'm going to go with the trans brake and do that sort of deal. But I don't, again, it's not going to be too radical of a build. So I want this to be tame. I want to be able to drive it on the highway. You know, so that's pretty much the plans with it. I also got a new laptop, so I'll be able to start tuning the Camaro reliably. So I picked this up a couple days ago, so you know, got it all set up with my tuning hardware, so we should be good to go. But yeah, when I get that block back from the machine shop after the balance and have everything sized the way I need it, I'm going to install some new cam bearings and basically just start putting this thing back together. You know, it's not going to be an overnight build, but you know, I think it'll be nice. I'll get everything ready, so I have everything together, and then I will actually pull the original motor and trans out, and then I'll swap everything back in it. So until then, keep tuned to the channel, and you know, we'll get you some updates. So I appreciate you guys watching, and if you're into this sort of thing, you know, if you're building a project like that, you know, let me know. If you got any options maybe that I might have missed, and maybe some cool ideas we can add to the truck, again, let me know. 100% I'm doing 180 headers. That is freaking awesome. You guys should check that out. I'll post a link to like another video that pretty much has sealed the deal for me. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time, and I wasn't actually sure if I was going to use a small block Chevy or an LS1. Obviously, you know, I love LS1, so you know, that's pretty much a no-brainer. I needed to find one for the right price. That's why we got the LY6 for a couple $100. You know, can't beat it. Couple $100 truck, couple $100 engine, you know, and then we're adding a bunch of stuff to it. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later.